The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-host and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on our live shows.
Broadcast for shooters, hunters, and gun enthusiasts. This is the Firearms Radio Network. The bandwidth for this episode of This Week in Guns is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company. PatriotPatch.co.
Welcome to This Week in Guns. This show is brought to you by the Firearms Radio Network and Patriot Patch Company.
And this show offers commentary on the latest firearms industry news, information, and buzz. I'm your host, Sean Heron. And let me go ahead and start introducing some folks to you. We've got back the host of the Off-Road Podcast and a shipper of freedom at Rainier Arms, Benjamin Allreed. How's it going, man?
It's going great, man. How's it going?
Glad to have you back. Next up, we've got veteran, Second Amendment advocate, professional rabble-rouser, and host of the Matter of Facts podcast, Phil Rabelais. How's it going, man?
Thanks for having me back, Sean. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Now, guys, don't forget, Patriot Patch Company supports this podcast. And I don't know how many of you out there are Patch of the Month Club members, but I would highly suggest it. Go to patriotpatch.co, and every single month, just like magic, you lose a little bit of money out of your bank account and you get really cool stuff in the mail. Just really cool original patches, usually themed for whatever month it is. This one was the Easter patch. So it was a bunny on a tank shooting eggs. It was pretty amazing. Just definitely go check them out. Patriotpatch.co. And also Manticore Arms makes this show possible. Go check out their large array of gun comfort products is what I like to call them. ManticoreArms.com, coupon code TWG10 saves you money on everything that you buy there. And check out their transformer rails. They are amazing. We just had them in studio, talked about them on another show Monday night. And people seem to love them when they get them. So go try one out, see what you think. TWG10 is the coupon code. Now, guys, rallies scheduled at state capitals around the nation to support gun rights. I don't know, you've probably been seeing a little bit of these, but on April 14th, this show will probably publish on maybe the 12th or the 13th. So on April 14th, which is this coming Saturday, 2018, there's going to be basically nationwide pro-gun, pro-Second Amendment rallies at all 50 state capitals. And this is reasonably cool. Have you guys seen either of these? Any of these?
I've seen one scheduled for the 22nd, I think it is. And mine in my state capital, which is kind of weird. So I'm like, what's with you guys? You're a little late there.
They just can't get it right. So this is the National Support the Second Amendment rally at the Capitol, put up by the NCCPA, the National Constitutional Coalition of Patriotic Americans. So go check them out on Facebook. Actually, they've got events for all 50 states on the 14th, which is this coming weekend. And they're going to do them all at the same time. So they've got the time frames, the time zones, based on your locality. And I will be going. I'm going to drive a little bit over an hour north to the state capital, Denver, Colorado, and I'll definitely be there.
Good luck with that. I hear Denver's not exactly an extremely friendly place for Second Amendment advocates.
No, I got pulled over there recently, and yeah, it wasn't great for me. I did have a gun in the car, which made things really, really tough. All right. So anyway, consider going and supporting our gun rights. I think if you can do it without too much loss of income, loss of freedom or anything like that, I think it's definitely a great thing to go do. 22,000 high school athletes to compete in high school clay target league this season, and this story is actually pretty cool. It comes to us from AmmoLand, and this just basically talks about the Clay Target League being one of America's fastest growing high school activities. Some facts that I saw in here are that it's fully Title IX compliant for both male and female athletes. It's an adaptive sport, which allows students with physical disabilities to take part. It has to be 100% approved by school boards, so it's completely legit and approved all the way across, and over 20,000 kids are taking advantage. Thoughts?
I'm looking at the map of where these are located, and I gotta say, I'm kind of ashamed for some of these states. I mean, look at the South, empty. The Midwest, empty. I mean, Montana, come on,
right?
And then like I see two in Washington and a bunch in Oregon. It's like, come on, what's up with you guys? You're slacking.
Totally.
I mean, honestly, anytime we get young people into the shooting sports, I'm excited. And the thing I've always pointed out to people is, with very few exceptions, the shooting sports is one of the last true places where everyone can shoot equally. Whether you're male or female, 100 pounds or 250 pounds, you don't have to be a great athlete. I mean, I remember back when I used to get involved in auto racing, which was a hobby of mine years before I had a child and was married. You know, all my savings got sucked into the family life. But back then I used to tell people the same thing. I'm like, it doesn't matter if you put a woman or a man behind the wheel of that car. It's who can drive the best. That's who's going to win. You can compete toe-to-toe with anybody in a car. And you can do the same thing in the shooting sport. So, I mean, I'm happy to see kids get into shooting. Male, female, don't care. Get them in, get them educated, and let them have fun.
Totally agree. I think it's a fantastic thing. I'm excited to see it grow. And they've got the statistics on there. 2010, there was 340. 2018, 21,917.
Well, what's that say for our youth there?
Says that at least some of them are being exposed to firearms and not just exposed to David Hogg.
Thank God.
We talked about this next story. 25-year-old Houston woman charged in the negligent shooting of a friend on Facebook Live. This was the video that I was unfortunate enough to see. I watch things like this because I think medical training is important. In this case, I apparently watched it for no reason, because there's nothing you're going to do for this guy as a civilian medic. Anyway, they were sitting in a car. She points a gun at her friend, says it's unloaded. You can clearly hear her rack around into the chamber. No one in the car knows it's loaded. Points it right at him, shoots him in the head. He slumps over. They get out and run away. They caught her, and she's definitely being charged.
Yeah, I saw this video too, and I was just like, is it real? This can't be real. Who would be that stupid? But I digress, because there are the people that are that stupid.
Yeah, and then they ran, which is accident's an accident. You're probably going to take some heat for it either way, but then she just tried to wipe her prints off the gun, and the other two, her and the other guy in the car, just ran away. So I'm glad they got caught. Phil, anything to add here?
I think what frustrates me is, we as Second Amendment advocates have a hard enough time convincing people that you can be responsible with a gun and you can be safe, and guns don't just hurt people. They serve as defensive tools and a variety of other, they serve a variety of purposes. And then someone like this does something like this, and it's all you can do is shake your head, because this is what people think of when they hear about gun rights. This is what people think of when they hear about, constitutional carry, and people don't have to get training to have a concealed carry permit, which I wholeheartedly support. But this is the other side of that argument. Yeah. People are going to go out and say, this is why we have to have these permitting processes, and this is why all these restrictions have to be here, because of this. And it just makes our jobs harder to educate people. It's just frustrating. Yeah,
I do agree. And I don't know really how to say this without sounding too white suburban dad.
Let it rip.
Yeah, I mean, there's some very blatant stereotypes. There's some very urban talking that's going on. And these are like Black Guns Matter. These are the people that generally Maj Touré is trying to teach and educate, and that really do need to go take his classes, because they're historically not going to be NRA members, historically not going to be well trained. And some people get down on Maj Touré because he's he openly admits to some people that he teaches gun safety might be criminals. But in cases like this, teach them so stupid things like this don't happen, because if he educates them and stupid things like this don't happen, just like Phil said, it's not going to really count against us as the Second Amendment advocating community. So yeah, I think that education would have stopped this stupidity from happening.
But on the flip side of things, stupid people do stupid things for stupid reasons.
Yeah.
So, I mean, anybody that would point a handgun at somebody else, loaded or otherwise, and not see a serious problem with that behavior, probably snorts condoms. I mean, I don't know how much education, yes, but you can't educate some people.
True. But I mean, just basically showing them how to unload a firearm. I mean, that could have probably prevented some of the stupidity here.
Look, I could have sat down with my 5-year-old for about 10 minutes, and she'd have given him the gun safety speech 6 different ways.
Yeah.
Don't touch it, go find an adult. That'd have been the perfect advice for this young woman.
Yes, it would.
Go find a responsible adult.
Yes, exactly. Aide to New York Mayor de Blasio arrested for possession of an illegal gun. So this is kind of interesting. There's a couple things in the story that I really wanted to focus on. First off, it happened in New York. She was arrested in a car with 2 other people. There was a loaded 9mm semi-auto pistol with its serial number defaced, hidden in the car's glove box, and a spent shell casing on the floor near her feet. New York PD has their shot spotter devices, which basically will triangulate the location of gunfire and report it to authorities. The listening device pinpointed the shooting at 174th Street and 109th Avenue, and private surveillance video captured muzzle flashes of 5 shots fired from the Infiniti that they were in. So this lady's in some trouble for sure. This is just, more corrupt government. Don't do as we do as we say type thing. Ben, you have anything on this one?
Maybe she'll share a prison with rocket launcher Lee or Yee.
Maybe Leland Yee from California.
No, you took the words right out of my mouth, Sean. It's another clear case of do as we say, not as we do. And I don't know how, people in our community, I think, get this really readily, but I don't know how everyday America hasn't caught on to the fact that most of the people that screech and yell for gun control are protected by armed guards, have concealed carry permits, they have police details protecting them at all times, they have firearms. It's like you can't, without being an abject hypocrite, advocate for gun control or support an administration or organization that advocates for gun control, and at the same time do all the things you want to restrict people from doing. So I don't know. Let's see if there's any prison time handed out on this one. I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, and I mean, they definitely pinpointed the shots coming from that car. So who knows what she's involved with? Her main job for the mayor is implementing a 2017 state law that raises the age at which kids can be prosecuted as adults for nonviolent crimes from 16 to 18.
Well, but let's stop and think about this. You said that the serial number on the weapon was defaced, right?
Yeah.
Federal. That's federal.
Yeah.
That's not a state. That's not a state felony. That's federal.
Yeah.
I don't know. Somebody at the attorney general might want to have a look at that.
And I definitely hope that they do, because it's some nonsense. South Carolina guys proposing secession over gun control laws being enacted. This comes to us from CBSnews.com. 3 South Carolina State House Republicans quietly introduce a bill on secession. The article starts out that South Carolina debated seceding from the Union more than 150 years ago, a decision that ultimately led to the Civil War. And they kind of just quietly introduced this bill. It's not going to probably be heard this session because they had to be in before April 10th. And this was done on the 6th. So I don't know. It's just kind of weird. But basically it says the General Assembly shall convene to consider whether to secede from the United States based upon the federal government's unconstitutional violation of the Second Amendment to the United States Constitution if the federal government confiscates legally purchased firearms in this state. So I think this is just a whole lot of, well, we have an expert in rabble rousing here. Phil, is this rabble rousing?
I think it's absolutely a bit of virtue signaling, but even that being what I think it is, I just kind of shrug my shoulders and say, yeah, of course we would. Why wouldn't we? I mean, when this came out, I talked to my co-host about it, and even I think he and I were both on the same page. Like, okay, this is an obvious bit of conservative virtue signaling. Yeah, we get it. You're going to concede. If the government comes in to take your guns, you're going to secede. I would hope many states would, but regardless. But at the same time, this is almost like, what's that name? What's his knucklehead's name? That was a Democrat head congressman that was screeching and yelling about how the Second Amendment provides people firearms so that they can overthrow the Trump presidency if they become tyrannical. And most of us in the Second Amendment community said, that's the point, Jack.
Exactly.
That's the whole point. You finally get it. And I guess my point of view is, it's like, yeah, that's kind of the whole point. That's why we're a republic of independent states. The states have the right to withdraw their membership from the United States in certain situations. So I don't know why you have to have a law for that.
Yeah.
But then again, I live in the Deep South. I was born and raised down here. So seceding from the United States is kind of it's a historical footnote, and it's our birthright, I guess.
There you go. Ben, thoughts?
It's interesting because, you know, that's kind of the starts of a civil war as a state withdraws, and then but there's no real there's no real lines of north and south. It's more urban and country, or it would be really interesting to really see what would happen on terms like that nationally.
Yeah, kind of interesting. So Bill, you said it, virtue signaling, maybe not, I don't know, I guess we'll find out. But either way, I do laugh a little bit when I read it. Apple CEO Tim Cook supports democracy over demagoguery. NRA TV to stay on Apple TV. This comes to us from deadline.com. This was kind of all over the news. People were sending in and saying that Apple TV had a channel or an icon for NRA TV, and people wanted that taken off. It also happened on Amazon and their Kindle Fire products and things like that. And Tim Cook basically came out and said, no, look, even if we don't agree with something, it's good for public discourse to have conflicting views. And I think that's fantastic. You guys?
That's awesome. It's just seeing, you know, he may not stand for the Second Amendment, but protecting free speech, that's what he's standing up for. And that's what we need more of.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
Like really honest to God, chin to my chest, shocked, but happy. I mean, I've said it before, and I am a professional rabble rouser. I get into it with people from all sides of the political spectrum, including hardcore libertarians who I don't always agree with, even though I usually do. But it's not necessary to agree with somebody to give them an equal voice in the discussion. And if that's all Tim Cook aspires to do with this, is just to give everyone an equal voice and let the ideas be debated, I'm okay with that. That's all any of us have ever wanted in the debate about gun control, for example. We just want equal voice. We want to say our piece and listen to y'all's, and maybe we can talk back and forth. But I'm glad to see he's not pulling a Zuckerberg and just downvoting the hell out of everything to try to get rid of everybody.
He has a really good quote here. He says, I don't even think, referring to the NRA, that they represent their members well, right? From the people that I know from my heritage in the South and so forth, Cook said, but their point of view, along with the alternate point of view, I think it's actually important for the public to hear that. And I wish it could be done in a not vitriolic tone. And all of the accusation and personal attacks that is on there, I don't subscribe to any of that at all. So like, this is a dude, head of a huge tech company, obviously doesn't agree with a lot of the stuff the Second Amendment, whatever. I don't want to read too much into what he said, but just very importantly, like you guys said, free speech, huge, huge, huge. He does then go to say that he does find it distasteful, and if that they walk into the path of hate speech or anything else, that they're going to cut it off. But I think we're generally pretty okay with that. We'll see how crazy Ackerman McQueen gets with the NRA advertising.
Yeah, but that is the textbook definition of tolerance, is to hear a person's ideas that you disagree with. You know, it's a lot harder to be tolerant of somebody you absolutely don't agree with. Mm-hmm. That's to me. I mean, Tim Cook won some points in my book with this.
Same.
Because if you disagree with me, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But we can still have a discussion about it.
Yeah.
So,
and that's my whole thing. I'm with you 100%. Well, in the No One Is Shocked files, we hear that NICS checks spiked in March due to gun legislation concerns. This comes to us from AmmoLand. In March, the FBI reported that we saw a record 2,767,699 background checks initiated with the system, which is up over 334,607 over March of 2017. So we all know that NICS is not necessarily the best way to gauge the success or failure of the industry because of so many different factors. But if I recall correctly, March 2017 was kind of a dark time for gun sales. Is that what you guys recall as well?
Yeah. And it's kind of like slowly just started to spike and go crazy. It's been busy, at least on my end of things. my 2 days a month I work at the shop, I'm literally running around grabbing and shipping tons of items. Sales are up. It's crazy.
Yeah. So, and I always like to look. I don't like to just look at one thing. My graph is loading here, but we look at March. We'll say 2015. We had 2,012,488. 2016, 2.5 million. 2017, 2.433 million. And then 2018, 2.7 million. So when you look at it in that view, I think that you see that it is a pretty dramatic rise over even just the average of the last 4 or 5 years. 2015 being just an awful year with just barely over 2 million. But yeah, still pretty good news.
The only thing I ever wonder about at moments like this is, I wonder if gun control advocates have like huge amounts of stock in gun companies and are just keeping quiet about it. I mean, wouldn't it be the perfect setup to say, hey, I want my stock to go up by making this company sell some guns. Let's talk about an assault weapons ban.
Yeah.
Little tinfoil hat. I mean, it's an entertaining thought. The best salesman for guns on earth is Bloomberg and gun control advocates and all the like, because every time they start trumpeting about magazine limits or assault weapons bans, people empty out their 401k buying guns.
Yeah, without question. So guys, here's the thing is gun control advocates constantly say, look, guns are the problem. If we make guns harder to get and more restricted and put background checks on ammunition, and if we completely ban guns, we're going to live in a beautiful utopia, and it's just going to be the best place that we could all ever live. There will be doves flying everywhere and butterflies in every garden, and it'll just be this wonderful place to live. But we, as realists and Second Amendment advocates and content creators in the firearms industry, we know that that's not true. We understand that evil exists in this world, and if we just take away guns, then people will figure out another way to harm, maim, and murder each other, right?
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Although the only thing that really ran through my mind when I saw this is there's going to be that one person out there that's going to say this in horrible taste and judgment and say, well, imagine how many people would have died if they'd had guns. Like, well, only 6 people got stabbed, so that's a plus.
Yeah.
I mean, but my argument for the Second Amendment goes something like this, and it applies equally in this situation where it's mass stabbing as it does mass shooting.
Totally. And
the statistics, it's okay to debate the statistics about whether this gun measure, that gun measure are going to reduce the number of people shot every year. That's okay. We can debate that till the cows come home. But the statistic doesn't matter if you're that one person. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If only one person dies in a year, but that one person is me or my wife or God forbid my child or someone important to me, then that one person is the one person I care about. But my answer to this is, imagine how fast that person stabbing everybody would have got dropped by a concealed carrier in this country versus he was allowed to just run wild because nobody had the means to stop him.
Yeah, and the story he's talking about is reported in USA Today. 16 stabbed in a 90-minute window. It was multiple incidents. It was just a bunch of people getting stabbed in London. We talked last week that London has surpassed New York in homicides for the year of 2018 so far, and this is the first time in modern history that has actually happened. And now you see stories like 6 people getting stabbed, which brings us to our next story, which is London mayor establishes new knife rules to quell knife violence. Police are now going to be able to stop and frisk people believed to be carrying knives. He's come out and said he's announcing broad new knife control policies designed to keep these weapons of war out of the hands of Londoners looking to cause others harm.
I'm sorry, Sean, continue.
No, go ahead, man.
When has a knife been a weapon of war since the freaking Bronze Age, for God's sake?
Does this rhetoric sound familiar to us?
Well, coming next, car control. Followed by bomb control. Followed by oxygen control.
Let's call it what it is. The front bumper of a freaking Hummer is a weapon of war. I know, I've used it that way. Does that mean we ban cars? Do we put pool noodles on the front of all the cars so that they don't hurt anybody? I mean,
yeah.
Okay, I'm done. Had to get it out.
Mayor of London tweets, "No excuses. There is never a reason to carry a knife. Anyone who does will be caught, and they will feel the full force of the law."
What if you're a sushi chef?
What have you seen the people shaving on social media with spoons and cutting their steak with spoons? And this is ridiculous. And to anyone who's maybe leaning one way or the other, or has a relative or a loved one who may be leaning one way or the other, and they're just not sure they can get behind guns because guns are a little bit scary to them, show them things like this. Say, look, this is banning guns is the start, and this is where we will be just shortly thereafter. I mean, guns are harder to come by in London, so people kill with other things. They maim, hurt, harm, injure, and kill with other things. And it's never going to stop evil. It's never going to stop crazy people from being crazy. All it's going to do is stop people who want to eat their damn steak in private and not mess with anybody.
Yep.
Well, and that's why we have guns. I mean, nothing stops a 300-pound man from taking out a 90-pound woman like a 357 to the chest.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Jeremy Posderick from River's Edge Tactical in Valley City, Ohio, also from the We Like Shooting show on the Firearms Radio Network. I was in a bar with him in Nashville, and we were talking to some girls, and they had asked why we were there, and we said, we're here for the NRA annual meetings, and one of them said, "Oh, that's guns scare me. I don't think anyone should be able to own guns. Like, why should I want, or why should I need to own a gun?" And Jeremy, 6'7", built like an orangutan, walks directly up to her, completely invades her space, looks down at her diminutive 5'1" frame, and says, "Because you can't stop me from doing whatever I want." And I think in that moment, it was one of the most uncomfortable moments of my entire life, but also, she had to realize the reality of that situation. Like, if Jeremy had been a maniac, murderer or worse, she could have done nothing about it. And that force multiplier is why we have firearms. It's why women are one of the biggest growing demographics in firearms.
Yeah, I laid that out in a recent blog article, honestly, because I use my wife as a perfect example. She's, I gave her kudos. She is hell on wheels with a deer rifle. She is turning into a very competent pistol shooter with some practice. But like I said, I'm going to say most. There's probably that one Amazon woman out there that could lay me down on the carpet and, stomp on my neck until I bled out. But the average woman is not going to, for example, have an easy time fending off a violent attack against someone like me, for example, 6 foot tall, 250 pounds, martial arts background, prior service Army. In a contest of hand-to-hand violence, I have an enormous advantage over the average woman, even over a lot of other men. But if you put the smallest, most diminutive woman, my mom, for example, she's 5 foot tall, and I'm not going to say how much she weighs because she'll hurt me, but she's a very small woman. But you put a 357 Magnum in her hands, and me and her are equal now. Because a chest full of lead is going to make me reconsider my life choices. So my argument then is, as it is now, the people who you're really hurting when you talk about gun control are the people that can't physically fight back. You're talking about harming the elderly. You're talking about harming people that are physically disabled, women. You're talking about harming people who, in a contest of physical strength, are already at a disadvantage. Now, why that doesn't cause feminists around the country to lose their freaking minds, I don't know.
Yeah.
Second Amendment's been making women equal to men a lot longer than feminism has.
Yep. Absolutely.
You can send all of your hate mail to me.
That's okay. I'm not afraid. I'll take it. North Carolina, gun range heavily damaged by arsonists. I saw this one on some social media. Basically, North Carolina gun range goes up in flames in a very obvious case of arson. They had a bunch of pergola type things, obviously, just like covering the shooting benches and stuff like that. There were 5 cans of gasoline. They were tied around all the supports. This is obvious arson, obviously more than one, and basically burned down 3 of their 5 structures. Yeah, covered firing points. Yeah, 3 of 5. And, pretty crazy. They said that they are already working on getting insurance and all that to step up and and take care of all the damage. And their quote, "We will not allow a group of anti-Second Amendment Nazis stop us from peaceably assembling to enjoy our Second Amendment rights." What do you guys think?
Good on them.
Yeah, it is good. I'm glad they're doing it, but it just kind of awful. Like this is a little bit crazy. You know, a lot of times anti-gun people will sit and spew and spout rhetoric and talk about safe places, but this is going on the offensive, and arson is a serious crime.
You know, to me, you just have to question the sanity and the judgment of people who actively, directly attack gun owners. I don't even have to go down that path. Y'all see where I'm going. But I mean,
without question,
you have to question their judgment and their sanity. Because to me, it's kind of like, if I'm going to pick somebody to try to tyrannically impose my will upon them, the last group I'm going to try is a community of people who spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars individually shooting lead into berms every year to defend themselves and protect themselves and their property. That's just a group of people I don't think I want to pick a fight with. I ought to go down the street to the Tide Pod eater who probably doesn't have guns and pick a fight with him. I'd have a better time with it. But I mean, if you're going to set fire to a gun range ostensibly in the middle of the night when nobody's there and like a coward, okay, but I'm telling you, if this goes any further down the path, I see people getting hurt.
I was actually thinking that myself. Just imagine if, I'm not sure what the laws are for North Carolina, but if the owner of that gun range was there in his house and he's seen them doing it and he decides to defend his business and he shoots them.
Yeah. In Colorado, you cannot defend property with lethal force unless it is like a third degree or first degree arson is suspected. You can defend arson. You can defend property if arson is suspected. So,
or you make friends with a pig farmer.
There you go. Next story, Department of Homeland Security compiling a database of journalists and media influencers. Yeah, this is kind of interesting, from the Chicago Sun-Times. And just basically, this is, the DHS has media monitoring, which gives the contracting company 24/7 access to a password-protected media influencer database, including journalists, editors, correspondents, social media influencers, excuse me, and bloggers, etc., in order to identify any and all media coverage related to the DHS or a particular event. So, I guess
we're on a list. Sweet.
Maybe, but like, aren't we all on lists anyway? Aren't we? Is this really a big deal? Like, of course, the government is going to monitor people who can influence and whatnot. I mean, I don't think that this is any huge surprise. I'm not even sure. Like, it's uncomfortable to think, but I don't know. Phil, what do you think?
I mean, first, on the one hand, it's a little bit Orwellian.
Yeah.
A little bit. But on the other hand, like y'all just said, I think to myself, I'm like, how many lists am I already on? Let's see. Military veteran, constitutionalist, Second Amendment advocate, small government, proponent. Oh, I'm already on about 6 lists. Go ahead, DHS. Put my name on the list too.
Yep, just keep adding me on the lists. I'm down.
Just keep on adding me.
Yeah.
I mean, I anytime the government starts poking their nose in people's private lives, I get a little bit uncomfortable. But I'm already on so many lists. Just add me to one more.
Yeah,
and just get my name right.
It's all public information. It's just they're cataloging, documenting, and publishing this public information. It's not like home addresses and things like that, as far as I could tell from
the NSA does that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, hey, if the government's going to catalog people, I would much rather that it's reported in the newspaper than what actually truly happens for the people who, like you just mentioned, the NSA stuff like that. This makes me way less nervous than the stuff that we don't hear about. All right, what else do we have going on here? California bill would expand firearm definition to include various parts and not just receivers. This is insanity to me. I don't know if you guys read about it, but basically they're trying to get rid of those ghost guns that we've all heard so much about. And they've got a mock-up language for California Assembly Bill 2382, authored by Mike Gibson, Democrat, and it would expand the definition of firearm and receiver. So basically, you'd have background checks to buy barrels, things like that, things that you could complete an AR-15 with. Just insanity.
Oh, it's better than that.
For revolvers.
Ammunition feeding devices, unfinished receivers, molded or shaped polymer frames or receivers. Okay, so they're going after polymer 80s.
Yep.
Metallic castings, metallic forgings, receiver flats. Okay, so basically, if you now have to dial up nicks if you want to sell somebody a piece of sheet metal.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, California.
So I can't remember who it was. I think it was Nate Murr who said he saw someone building an AK out of a shovel.
Yeah, I've seen.
Maybe that was an old story on here.
Yeah.
So we have to now get background checks in California for shovels.
Yes.
Yeah. Where it's going. Just
and chainsaws.
Crazy. Like Firearms Radio Network has so many listeners in California. I know on We Like Shooting, California is one of our biggest demographics, and I don't ever want to be like, hey, just move out. That's just not the way the reality works. So I just feel so bad for all of our, all of the companies and individuals in California who are patriots and Second Amendment advocates and supporters and just want to shoot their guns because it's stupid stuff like this. I'm like, you literally walk into a convenience store and no one is speaking anything but Spanish, but somehow we need to, put background checks on barrels.
Well, this is where I'm going to go on another list and say maybe it's time to overthrow the government in California. Yeah.
There you go.
My whole outlook is when I was younger, that used to be my battle cry was every time I'd hear about California, just move out, abandon the state, give it up. Now I go the other direction. I say, no, don't move out. Just refuse to comply.
Take it back.
Just refuse. Look. How does anybody know the statistic on how many million gunners there are in California? I know they've got more than any other state in the country by virtue of size and population.
Biggest buyers of guns in the United States.
Okay.
They buy more than Texas and other states combined.
So I guess my point of view is it's like, what would the state of California really do if all of you one day banded together and said, no, we're not registering. We're not turning them in. We're not giving you our bump stocks. We quit. We are taking our ball and we're going home. We're done. Y'all push too hard. You push too far. We are done. Come and get them. What would the state do? How many law enforcement officers do you think are in the state of California to try to police that many million gun owners?
That wouldn't be backing them up at that.
Yeah, we've seen it. Like all these other states that have crazy, like the New York SAFE Act, like no one, like just nominal numbers have turned in anything. We see it all up in the Northeast United States. There's just all kinds of stuff like that going on. Civil disobedience. It's a thing in Colorado. We've since July 1st, 2013, we've had 30-round new purchases of 30-round magazines outlawed in the state of Colorado. I guarantee I can walk to every single gun store in this town and buy a rebuild kit and walk out the door and assemble it and have a 30-round magazine. I mean, not only are the citizens in Colorado rebelling against the stupid law, but stores, retailers, everything. No one cares. It's ridiculous, impossible to enforce, and a stupid law all the way around.
Yep. And for the people out there that are going to kind of throw their hands up and say, well, you can't fight the government. They'll put you in jail. I've got 3 words for you. Battle of Athens.
Yeah.
Google that one and let history teach you what happens when a government pushes too hard, too far. There's too many people, and if all the gun owners stood up finally and said no, this would end. It only continues because it's allowed to continue. So I don't think people should move out of California. I think they should stand up and stop giving. Personally,
I like it. I don't know if you guys heard, but South Carolina representative, a member of the GOP, brandishes loaded gun during constituents meeting. He was doing one of his local coffee with constituents thing in his home district, and he's pulls out his loaded 38 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver and says, "I'm not going to be a Gabby Giffords. I don't mind dying, but whoever shoots me better shoot well, or I'm shooting back," and puts it on the table. And this apparently made people go insane. We'll talk about a couple different things here, but Democrats there want the congressman who displayed the gun prosecuted. And a bunch of people, no one got up and left. No one said that they were scared. Everyone finished the meeting and they took pictures and shook hands and smiled and everything at the end. But then a bunch of people came back and said that they were scared for their lives. And just basically want him charged with something, and they keep calling it brandishing, but it doesn't even fit the definition of brandishing. So I've got two things that I want to talk about here, and we'll go through them in order. First, do you guys think, and I'll start with you, Phil, that it was kind of silly to take his gun out in a constituent meeting just to make a point?
I think it was patently stupid.
Okay.
I mean, in the privacy of somebody's home, whatever. Yeah. At the gun range, showing off to your buddies. But for God's sake, when you're a public official, exercise some judgment. Don't give the other side ammo.
Ben?
Yeah, it was definitely stupid. He could have easily just patted his side and said, "I'm not going to be a victim."
Yeah, or said, "I'm a concealed carrier and I'm not going to be a victim." Like, yeah.
It's that simple, but no, I've got to pull it out, set it on the table. I'm not going to be Gabby Giffords.
Yeah,
not smart.
No, not in any way. Now, having said that, none of us agree with him. Do we think he should be charged with anything? And Ben, I'll start with you here.
There's no laws against being stupid, unfortunate. Well, there are laws, but I don't think there's a law that pertains to being that kind of stupid.
Yeah, I don't think so either, and especially not brandishing. I mean, it was pretty clear that he wasn't brandishing. Phil?
I mean, if he didn't meet the state's legal definition for brandishing, no, nothing to charge him with. Jesus Christ, just what a boneheaded thing to do.
I know. And like you said earlier, it's like bad for us as 2A advocates when people do stupid things like this. And yeah, like he was probably trying to prove a point, and he's like, I'm a good guy. I'm the guy with the concealed carry permit. I'm going to protect people when they can't protect themselves. And, but man, just not doing us any favors. Just if a gun comes out of a holster, it better be to actually pull the trigger and shoot somebody. Otherwise, don't pull it out of the holster.
Yep. Like I said, it's all about context. I mean, it doesn't sound like he was doing it in a threatening manner, certainly boisterous from the sound of it, but just, you're a public official. You got to exercise a little better judgment than that, or you're going to see it in the polls.
Yep, I agree. Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz told 350 plus attendees at her gun safety town hall meeting in Florida that the majority of NRA members support banning high capacity magazines. And to that I say, what the heck are you talking about?
Lies.
Yeah, what? Who? Like, I bet we could find maybe a small percentage, and some of them are probably even on the NRA board of directors. But I think in general, like, I don't think most people want to ban or even would remotely support that are NRA members. Guys?
I've run across a few FUDs as they've been referred to. It's the older guys that I only need a shotgun, just crank one in the air or rip one in the chamber and they'll run away. You have no reason for an AR. But those are the only ones that would say that.
Yeah.
They're set in their ways. That's fine by them, whatever. Be happy, live your way. I want to live my way, and my rights matter just as much as yours.
Yeah.
No, my only frustration is that there is no amount of us trying to walk this statement back at this point that will have any impact, because anybody that listens to that crazy box wine drinking nutcase is going to eat this with a spoon. And even if she herself stood in front of all of them and said, just kidding, guys, it still wouldn't matter. It's just frustrating.
Don't insult box wine.
She uses it to wash down the Xanax.
Right. Well, I mean, she's not totally stupid, because she says, I don't know a lot about guns, and I can acknowledge that I do know that it's the bullets that do the killing when they're fired from a weapon. Okay, idiot.
My 5-year-old knows that much. Good job. You're as smart as a kindergartner.
Yeah. But she also says that having more than 10 rounds in a magazine, the only purpose for doing that is to kill as many people as possible. Did you guys even know that? I didn't know it.
No, the purpose for having more than 10 rounds in a magazine is that reloading magazine sucks.
Yeah.
Like, sidebar, I am in the process of finishing up my first AR build because I've been an AK guy up till now. And the other day I was loading freaking AR magazines by hand because I don't have a speed loader or anything for them yet. And it took me about 45, 50 rounds in. And I was like, Jesus Christ, I hate loading magazines.
Yeah.
So there is a reason to have more than 10 round magazine. Loading magazines at the gun range sucks, especially when you're paying an hourly rate.
It's certainly, absolutely, without question. And you go to one training class where you're on the range for 9-10 hours and you're shooting 500 to 1,000 rounds. Yeah, tell me that. Yeah, just ridiculous. Guess what? I've loaded tens and tens and tens of thousands of AR rounds into magazines over the last 5 years or whatever. Not one of them has ever hurt, killed, maimed, or injured anyone ever. So she's a liar. She's stupid, and I'm sick of her mouth.
On that note, I took a friend of mine to the gun range several months back who's a relatively new shooter. And after about an hour and 15 minutes, he actually didn't have enough strength left in his thumbs to load those pistol magazines.
Yeah.
He started telling me, he's like, dude, I think something's wrong. And I go, I'm getting 10 rounds in these magazines. And his hands were worn for reloading.
Oh, I believe it.
Good times.
Guys, it's time to go into our offended news. And man, I am really offended by some of this. This first one, Boulder, Colorado ignores testimony, passes ban of assault weapons. This is 3 hours from where I'm sitting right now. 2.5, 3 hours from where I'm sitting right now. They went through the first reading and passed it unanimously, even after hearing more than 5 hours of public testimony on both sides of the issue. Let's see. I don't see this as taking away Second Amendment rights, Councilwoman Jill Adler-Grano said. The Second Amendment does not protect assault weapons. There have been hundreds and hundreds of mass shootings in America. This is a long overdue proposal. I think it's time to say enough. Not in the city of Boulder. And to that I say, idiot. 80% of mass killings are perpetrated with handguns. Like, don't be an idiot. And this is ridiculous. Thoughts, guys?
Thanks for listening to the people. You will not be voted back in again.
Yeah, I think they will. Boulder's so in Colorado, it's basically just a pure red state, except for three areas: Boulder, Fort Collins, and Denver. And clever gerrymandering is what has turned Colorado into what it is today.
The thing that I always can't wrap my head around is the number of people, from politicians to judges to, just average Jack and Jill running down the street, who continue to say that the Second Amendment does not protect assault rifles. Anybody familiar with U.S. v. Miller, Supreme Court case 1936?
Yeah.
Nay? Okay. Yes. For any of the listeners that are not, I encourage you to go back and read that court case. The summary of it was the National Firearms Act had been challenged and made its way up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court's decision was that the National Firearms Act did not violate the Second Amendment, because they're idiots, because it regulated weapons that were not in common use by the militia or the military at the time. So you could reasonably infer the opposite, that weapons used by militaries are protected by the Second Amendment. And they've been dodging that, and people have been dodging that ruling like it's a friggin' hot potato for 3/4 of a century since, because they don't want to go back and revisit the fact that you have to either shred the NFA if you reverse that decision, or you have to stop assault weapons bans. And it's the tar baby that no gun control proponent wants to touch. No federal judge wants to touch. I don't think SCOTUS wants to go back and revisit it, because they know if they do, they're in a no-win situation. They have to either strike down the previous decision and shred the NFA, and it's open season on short barrel rifles, short barrel shotguns, and silencers, or they have to stop the assault weapons bans at the state level, which none of them want to do either.
Yeah.
But yeah, U.S. v. Miller, 1936. Every time somebody utters the words that the Second Amendment does not protect assault weapons, push that one out, throw it in their face, beat them over the head with it.
Completely 100% agree. There's two other things in this that I thought were interesting. So as written, the ban would require anyone legally possessing anything under the ban to either register that gun with the Boulder Police Department, fee charged, or surrender it for destruction. So it seems more like the beginnings of confiscation than anything else. But I also will say that Republican gubernatorial candidate Doug Robinson said Friday that regardless of where they live, citizens of Colorado have a fundamental Second Amendment right. Any city that attempts, if he is elected, any city that attempts to take away that right or undermine state or federal law will lose state funding in a Robinson administration. And to that I say, well, you got my vote. Like, honestly, he could literally eat children and I would still vote for him at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I hate that we as the gun community come to this point, but we're at the point of almost having to be one issue of voters.
Oh yeah, I am.
Because things are getting that crazy with gun control. It's like you said, the guy could eat children. He could pull a Count Dracula and put people on pikes on the side of the road.
Yeah.
Pro Second Amendment, he's got my vote.
Yeah, I'm totally 100% with you. Guys, in California, there's just some more things going on. Proposed California law would limit police officers' ability to shoot armed suspects. Proposed law says suspects with imitation weapons can't be shot by police. And I'm like, oh, well, huh? What? Stop. I don't, it just, I can't even fathom it. That was on purpose. I wasn't actually stuttering. Ben, what are your thoughts here? Are you muted?
Yeah, there we go. I'm just, I don't know. It's just like, really? Come on. If their life is in danger, of course they want to shoot them.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. So someone pulls a gun out of their pants, and they have to make split-second decisions. Now, is it a fake gun? Is it an imitation gun? Is it a Nerf gun that they painted? Is it a real gun? How can they possibly, under any circumstances, expect police to live in an environment like that, where now they have to worry that if they don't make the right split-second decision, that there's really no right decision for, that their future, that their freedom is going to be affected by that? Just stupid. I hate this thought process behind this.
I got nothing. I mean, what do you even say to that?
Yeah,
if you passed a law that cops can't shoot unarmed suspects, I mean, okay, we could have a discussion about that, but California,
let's
just California,
or use small bats.
Yes, I saw that actually too.
I would say use harsh language, but that'll get you in trouble too these days.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. So Texas councilwoman and Moms Demand Action member cited for terrorizing teens. I saw this reported by AmmoLand when Kenny put it into the show notes, and I was looking through the stories, picking ones that I wanted to talk about. And I see this and I'm like, wait, what? And so basically there was a group of teenagers at a cookie store, and this just disgusting human being sees one of the kids wearing a Make America Great shirt again and begins to call them an expletive for a part of the female anatomy at these young teenage girls, and starts mocking them and shaking her fists in their face, screaming MAGA, MAGA, MAGA at them as loud as she possibly can. They got it on video. They identified who she was, and she's now being investigated. And she put out this sarcastic apology through her attorney that just made me want to just wring her neck. And just what a disgusting piece of human trash.
I would say they should have thrown Tide Pods at her, but I imagine these are probably not the type of teens that pods or snort condoms.
I think so. I think you're definitely right.
I think this would have been on the 6 o'clock news if there had been like one parent within earshot of this.
Yeah.
All I can think to myself as a father is, oh, it would have gone down.
That's what I was thinking too.
Somebody would have been picked up by the neck.
Totally, completely agree. Let's see. That'll do it for the I'm Offended. Let's go into our full auto news segment, stuff the real media isn't going to talk about. Now, Phil, while I talk about these other two stories, I'm going to have you look for one and pick one that you like. My story that I'm going to pick is man narrowly misses shooting range employee while trying to get hot brass out of his shirt. So basically, he's at the shooting range shooting. It bounces off the side barrier, goes down the back of his shirt. This insane, irresponsible person starts trying to shake it out, pulls the gun basically, and shoots like 3 rounds behind him on the floor trying to get this hot brass out of his shirt. I can't even fathom that level of irresponsibility, you guys.
I saw that video last night, and I showed my wife, and she's like, "Why didn't he just put the gun down?" My wife doesn't shoot regularly by any means.
Yeah.
She's like, why didn't he just put it down? And it's just like, I don't know. Can't fix stupid.
Yeah, and a range employee happened to be walking behind him, sweeping brass at the same time, and just barely got missed.
These inches.
Yeah. Phil, I feel like we broke you, man. I feel like at this point you can have no more.
My brain is currently like leaking down the back of my neck. Thanks, guys.
Yes.
I mean, I can remember the first time I got hot brass down the back of my shirt. It's a fairly painful experience if anybody out there hasn't had it yet.
Yeah, it sucks.
But I was on Army range, and the guy next to me was firing off an M16 A2 on 3-round burst, and a piece of hot brass went right down the back of my collar and stamped a red hot line on my back. And then, of course, I kind of, jumped and jerked because the back of my neck hurt. And then in doing that, the brass shifted over and then laid on my neck again. So I graduated base trained with a red V burnt into the back of my neck. But I didn't shoot anybody. I didn't drop the weapon. I mean, I don't know, discipline, muzzle awareness.
Yeah, not being a sissy.
How in the hell? Oh, jeez.
We were in Florida too.
You broke me.
I don't want to virtue signal here, but we were in Florida 2 years ago. We were at a Big 3 East event out there, and I was filming, but I was standing between two people shooting full auto guns, filming, and a piece of hot brass landed on me. But in Florida, it was so hot, humid, and sticky that it just stuck to my neck. So I didn't want to jump. I didn't want to make any sudden movements that would make them or freak them out or anything. So I just sat there while it burned me, and it was blistered instantly. It bled, and it sucked. But like, a little bit of hot brass, like, yeah, it sucks. It's not going to kill anyone. It's not going to hurt anyone. Just have some common sense.
Well, I mean, if it hurts that bad, just put the damn gun down.
Right. It can't hurt that bad. I refuse to believe that it hurt that bad. He was just an idiot.
Yeah.
Ben, speaking of idiots, what's your story?
Oh, well, this guy, Mr. John Boucher, shot himself in the face with a paintball gun at point blank. And, well, while his video is going viral on Facebook, he may possibly be getting money for it. You get to enjoy it. It's worth it. I'd play it, but my sound would come through. This dude,
by the way, he's been in a lot of videos. We've made a lot of fun of him on We Like Shooting Double Tap. And yeah, I don't know if you guys have seen any of his other videos, but he's like throwing himself into a huge bed of cactus. He's the guy that taped all the firecrackers to his body and lit them in the front yard. He's the guy that was skateboarding and snapped his leg in half. This is not a smart man.
This guy's why Jackass had that little warning before their show.
Yes. Oh, goodness.
Is it okay? Like, I know most SPCAs and humane societies around the country will catch and spay cats just to keep them from breeding as like a public service. How horrible would it be if I suggested something like that for people?
And there'd be some.
I mean, it sounds awful, but then the dude shoots himself in the face with a paintball gun, and I'm like, I don't think you should die because that's inhumane. But your line needs to end right here. Yeah. You can live out the rest of your days. Just don't screw up the gene pool any further. We'll give you a ball again.
I agree. Phil, any of these strike your fancy?
Oh, yes. Woman arrested for beheading boyfriend tells officers, "Take me back. Let me get my heads."
Yes. I guess I'm so desensitized that I'm laughing at someone who beheaded her boyfriends, but wow.
Well, okay. Let me start, and I'm going to be extremely unkind, so everybody's just going to have to kind of deal with it. First of all, looking at the picture of this young lady, she looks like somebody that might work around truck stops, and I don't mean driving trucks.
Yeah, lot lizard.
Oh yeah. Oof, that's a face. That's a lot of hard living and bad decisions.
Yes.
A 41-year-old dating a 29-year-old. Don't even know where to go with that one. And this woman is apprehended with one bloody glove and one bloody hand, and tells the cops, "You have to take me back and let me get my heads." Shortly afterwards, they find her boyfriend decapitated. Sean, can I repeat on the podcast what I said to y'all before we started recording? Or is that just like too over the top and I need to abridge myself?
You could say it. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
If we need to edit it, Kenny will edit it out.
Okay. This is from the Matter of Facts podcast. This is life advice. Men, don't stick your dick in crazy. And ladies, don't let crazy stick a stick in you.
Oh, I could not agree more.
where do you even go with something like this, guys? Anybody have anything?
I don't. Yeah, anyone who even looks like this lady, I'm not going to. I don't want anything to do with it.
Well, but okay, put yourself in the shoes of the officer when you have this woman in custody and she says, "You have to take me back and let me get my heads."
Right.
I wonder if they're still looking for any others. I mean,
honestly, I don't even know.
I don't know. You broke me tonight.
I know. I'm actually super proud of that. Let's see. Kenny actually just texted me, said on the range once while shooting steel plates, had a piece of hot lead hit his lip, go up his nose. He stopped shooting, made the gun safe, and went to the bathroom to blow his nose where the lead thankfully came out. No one got shot. He actually had lead go up his nose, and no one got shot.
That's impressive.
It is. All right. So we did have a listener request to talk about a YouTube story. To show support for a YouTuber that faces up to 5 years in prison for making a parody video that was insensitive. This is a person, a Scottish lad. I guess I can't do a Scottish accent. I almost started and then realized I couldn't. But he made made his pug do a Nazi salute to make his girlfriend laugh and put it on YouTube. When we talk about tyranny and we talk about the purpose of the Second Amendment to stop tyranny, to stop the assaults on the rest of our natural freedoms, it's exactly for things like this. He put this up. It was considered hate speech, got viewed more than 3 million times, and now he's being charged. And just wow, yeah. I mean, it's the end of everything. When you can no longer speak freely, when you're criminally prosecuted for making a joke, it is the end of society as we know it. So this is why the Second Amendment exists, is to prevent things like this from happening. All right. I think that'll do it. And we'll start wrapping this thing up. Bill, tell us where they can find you online.
MOFpodcast.com. You can find us on Facebook, Matter of Facts Podcast. We have a page in a closed group. We do have a YouTube channel. I don't know how much longer it's going to survive with all YouTube's new regulations, honestly. I mean, I've got a reloading video and a bunch of gun videos. I don't know. We'll wait and see.
Yeah.
And you can find the podcast on iTunes and Stitcher.
All right, man. It's been awesome. Thanks for being here with us again.
Thanks for having me.
Ben, tell us where they can find you and the Off-Road Podcast.
You can find us at Off-Road Podcast, anything, firearmsradio.tv/Off-Road Podcast, YouTube Off-Road Podcast, Instagram Off-Road Podcast, and Facebook. We've got all sorts of cool stuff coming up, some videos coming up on Facebook. It should be a pretty fun month.
Awesome, man. Always a pleasure, my friend.
Thank you.
Guys, don't forget to check out our advertisers, Patriot Patch Company. Join the Patch of the Month Club. Ben, you're wearing an All Rifles Matter t-shirt from the Patriot Patch Co. You can get all kinds of cool stuff like that, patches, cleaning mats, and all kinds of other great stuff. PatriotPatch.co. And then if you like tinkering, if you like putting stuff on your AR-15s, AKs, Scorpion Evos, Tavors, Brens, just everything you could possibly imagine. All the cool stuff that's out there, Manticore Arms makes products for. Transformer Rail is one of my favorite. Their muzzle devices, their linear compensator, which is one of those that has the blast shield on it, but they actually have screwable tips in there that you can do all kinds of other stuff with as well. So go check them out. Coupon code is TWG10. And guys, we so much appreciate you watching us, listening to us, and all the podcasts on the Firearms Radio Network. I just want to remind you that we could not do this without our producer, Kenny Ortega. This Week in Guns is produced by Kenny Ortega and is a production of the Firearms Radio Network. Guys, we'll check you next week.